Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Okay, let me start this off by saying again and again and again. This is for investment purposes only. Even though I can call it all the way up until an hour before they drop, this is still for investment purposes only. So, everybody should know by now there is a prerequisite to join my VIP. We'll start around about here. I want you to pay close attention, ladies and gentlemen. (0316) North Carolina, ladies and gentlemen, North Carolina. Do you see that? Promised. Ladies and gentlemen, 1948, ladies and gentlemen, triple dollar signed. Ladies and gentlemen, 726, ladies and gentlemen, 726 by the deadline straight. Ladies and gentlemen, 880, ladies and gentlemen, 880, promise to manifest straight. Ladies and gentlemen, 9002, ladies and gentlemen, triple dollar signed it for it to manifest the same day. Ladies and gentlemen, 0000, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. 1121 to 1128. Also, again, and again, and again. I covered it up, but it's there. (828), ladies and gentlemen, the only big money pattern on fire. 1127. Ladies and gentlemen, 006. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised my only big money pattern on fire would manifest. Ladies and gentlemen, 3259. Ladies and gentlemen, made it by the deadline. I promised my triple dollar sign, and I also gave it to you more than once. Can't beat that type of information, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, 5983. Look at that right there. Number one motherfucking big money pattern. How do you miss? Ladies and gentlemen, 616. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised triple dollar signed it. 1127. Gave it to you straight, same day, straight 2 times. Ladies and gentlemen, 964, ladies and gentlemen, number one motherfucking big money pattern. Boom, boom, boom. Can't beat this type of information, ladies and gentlemen. All you got to do is focus on the first 2 fire triple dollar signs. Ladies and gentlemen, 1467, ladies and gentlemen, you can see triple dollar signed it for it to go to Texas. Very last number you see, I promise and guarantee that they will manifest first. Ladies and gentlemen, 6588, number one motherfucking big money pattern. How can you miss? Number one. Ladies and gentlemen, 046 and 851 for the bonus. Ladies and gentlemen, top two, promise. Ladies and gentlemen, and I'm at the deadline. Ladies and gentlemen, promised. Straight. Ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at 655. I promise my only big money pattern on fire would manifest straight. Check out the date, 11/21 to 11/28. That means that it fell on time. Ladies and gentlemen, 8593, number one motherfucking big money pattern. How can you miss? Number one. Ladies and gentlemen, 795. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see it for yourself. 795. Promised. Straight. All you got to do to win, focus on my top 5 3 digits, which I promise the first two. 1, 2. Straight. Ladies and gentlemen, 3184. 13 hours before it dropped. My VIP, they knew that they could trust me. You see that right there, triple dollar signed. Ladies and gentlemen, 435. Ladies and gentlemen, 23 hours is all they had to wait. Straight. Ladies and gentlemen, 1456. Ladies and gentlemen, promise the top two. Look to win. Focus on my top 5 4 digits, which I promise the first two. 1, 2. Boom, boom, boom. Over and over and over again, I'm going to provide the winning combinations. Ladies and gentlemen, 9885, number one motherfucking big money pattern. How can you miss? You shouldn't be missing. Ladies and gentlemen, 652. Ladies and gentlemen, 23 hours before it dropped. 652, right there for you. Ladies and gentlemen, 407. 13 hours before it dropped. I promised you would see that combination. 5199, guaranteed specifically, ladies and gentlemen, to win. What do you need to do? Focus on the top 5 4 digits, which I promise. The top two, ladies and gentlemen, if you look, that was on the same date, 11/28, and I also guaranteed the number 3 number. 1, 2, 3. Boom, boom, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, 751. Ladies and gentlemen, top 2 numbers. You can't go wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I said you would see it between 11/26 and 12/4. Ladies and gentlemen, 038. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Number 1 big money pattern. It's right there. 11/27 to 12/4. Nine, 1, 7, 8. There you have it. Top 2. Promised. Can't beat this type of information, ladies and gentlemen. 1661. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. From 11/22 to 11/29, I said you would see that big money pattern. Who believed me? Ladies and gentlemen, 2650, number 1 motherfucking big money pattern. It'll do you in. You won't listen. You won't listen. All you got to do is listen. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, 618, ladies and gentlemen, there it is, triple dollar sign to manifest by the deadline date of 11/28. Today is 11/29. Ladies and gentlemen, 721, ladies and gentlemen, Number one motherfucking big money pattern, straight, promised. 11:27 to 12:04, just 24 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, 4199. Number one motherfucking big money pattern. You can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong. Number one, number one, number one. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it again. Do you see me? 3, 1, 5, 6. Ladies and gentlemen, right there, number one motherfucking big money pattern. I don't have to put all those numbers on there. You see that? 8, 6, 9 deuce. Number one. Look at that. Woo! 8, 6, 9 deuce. What did they drop? 8, 6, 9 deuce. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no denying that this is the truth right here. 158, 158. Number one motherfucking big money pattern. Y'all can't stop this. Ladies and gentlemen, 094. Number one big motherfucking pattern. Y'all can't stop this. I gotta go. I gotta go. Look at this right here. 094 straight. Y'all can't stop this. 581. Number one big money pattern. Over and over and over again. I'm going to give you the winning combination. 8153. 8153. I promised it would manifest straight by the deadline date. Why y'all keep fucking with me? Y'all better stop. Ladies and gentlemen, 249. Ladies and gentlemen, 249. Promise to manifest straight. Y'all see that at 3:46 a.m. The deadline date was met. Again, if you can listen to me and follow my simple winning instructions. Simple winning instructions, ladies and gentlemen. And you have to convey what those instructions are before you send me money. Because if you send me money, I'm not going to answer you until you ask for the refund. That's what I'll do. I'm not playing with people here. As you can see, I'm on point. As you can see, I hardly ever miss. As you can see, I am the world's greatest time traveler on this plane of existence. I prove it every single motherfucking day. But who's listening? Very few, very few. But I'm going to see you at the winner's table no matter what. You should know this by now. So around when 10:30 roll around, you should already know Mr. Bascomb already won. You should already know that I know what's going to happen in Texas. You should already know. I already know what's going to happen in Georgia. I already know what's going to happen in Ohio, Michigan, Florida, North Carolina, in that order. 2 states before, 2 states after. Again, when I tell you that a big money pattern is going to make its debut and you don't listen, shame on you. If I don't provide it, then shame on me. But I'm providing it every single day. I keep getting suspended off of all these other platforms. So again, they can't handle the truth. They don't want me promising numbers. I cannot help but to promise these motherfucking numbers. If I say I promise the number 1, the number 2, then I promise that shit. Flat out. No way around it. So if it's hurting people's feelings, that's doing rundowns and flips and mirrors, and you're losing clients because you're guessing at what the motherfucking lottery is going to be, I'm telling you what the fuck it's going to be. Now, top that. I will see everybody at the winner's table. Abundant prosperity in health and in wealth to all who follow me and believe in the hard work that you see me accomplishing every single day. I'm going to leave you with a, let's see here. I'm going to give you 9280, 1869, 3599, 308 deuce, 'So I don't know if anybody really noticed how many number one motherfucking big money patterns I produced just on yesterday alone. That's pretty fucking phenomenal if you ask me. If you was to ask me, hey, Mr. Bascomb, I know somebody that can make their number one number manifest every single motherfucking day, I'd quit my job and I would join. Sure would. No questions asked. I'm going to see y'all at the winner's table. Love you all.